took it.
All right. Εξπάρει το
Yeah,
μικρόφωνο.
he has it. He has
Okay. Είμαστε έτοιμοι? Τέλεια. Come here, come here. It's after 12, so I'm gonna say καλησπέρα, not καλημέρα. Καλησπέρα και καλώς ορίσατε. This is a very interesting session, I have to admit. Remy, Kim, thank you for being here with me. We're going to do it the Greek way now. Actually, the ancient Greek way.
Okay.
We are in Agora. Agora means assembly. Maybe meant assembly, because now it's a trademark. And what did ancient Greek did when they were in Agora? Speaking all the time about everything. But now we have this new session in Radio Days, and I have to say that it was created with our strategic partners, David Systems, and we like to thank them very much. And you are going to talk with all those interesting people about youth.
Yeah.
Youth and audio.
Yeah.
So, this is your time.
Thank
you
you
so much for being here.
Thank you.
Katarina.
And Katarina, Agora is a bit chaotic as well, right?
What?
When people meet, many people meet and everyone want to talk.
Yes, it
So that's probably what it's going to be here as well. We're going to have it like
Exactly.
7 persons on the stage discussing this topic. So will be a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
Maybe, but interesting. Maybe the most interesting session on Radio Days this year.
Yes.
Or most
because-
important.
Do you have sound in my microphone?
Meanwhile, I will tell you, I'm Kim Olsson. I'm, as Remy, a part of the program group for Radio Days. But normally I work as a content developer at Swedish Radio. And Remy, you can use my mic. Meanwhile.
This is an important session because if we don't win over the youth to listen to radio and podcasts, then we can pack our bags, right? There won't be any Radio Days 2035 without them, and maybe no radio.
Yeah, and you work as a, just present yourself, sorry about this.
My name is Remy and I work for Norwegian Public Radio, NRK, and I'm also part of the program group with Kim.
All right, as you all know, there's been like a dramatic change on the radio market the last years. We have lost a lot of listeners, especially among young. We at Swedish Radio, which is the leading company in Sweden, we have lost almost like half of the young audiences between 15 and 24 since 2012, down 48%. And if we should check into the daily listening time, we've gone down from 1 hour, 10 minutes to 50 minutes. So it's down 28% since 2012 on the SR channels on daily basis. Both are on daily basis. That's not very good. It's a dramatic loss of listeners, but we can see some hope now because we also see now the last 2 years, since 2023 on Swedish Radio channel, new listeners are coming, up 31% on daily listening. So there is a hope and there is possibilities to do something to bring new audiences into the radio, right?
Yes, and if we as a radio and audio media do our work, we will give them the relevant alternatives for screenless media consumption, and that's what we will talk about here today. And what is the next step forward? You will get insights from interesting, smart people from 2 panels, one with decision makers who is sitting here now, and one with the ones actually working with the media and radio for the young. And after this session, there will be a short break for 10 minutes. We will go upstairs to the Agora area, and then you can join the discussion. We will stand around the table, and it will be possible for everyone to say what they mean and ask questions. You can follow me on our way out after we are finished here. I asked to get an umbrella to get people to follow me, but I got a wooden spoon, so follow the wooden spoon after we're done.
Yeah. So we hope it will be an interesting discussion. Maybe you saw like a digital detox screen here. That's a trend we can see in Sweden as well. Like 2 kind of groups when it comes to the young. Those who joined the Silla session this morning heard her talk about that some young actually are turning off the screen and some of them are using the screen very much. So if we do our job in the best way, maybe there's a possibility, maybe there is a chance for us to reach those who don't want to use screen but want to use audio instead. But that's like up to us to do that work in a good way. Before we start the discussion, we're gonna go and listen to the ones we actually gonna talk about. So we're gonna go to the streets of Stockholm to hear the relationship to radio and thoughts about what radio should do to be relevant in the future. So look at this.
Hi, Matt.
Hello there! Today we're in Stockholm and we're gonna ask some young people about radio, what they think and feel and what the vibe is. Do you guys listen to radio?
Yes. Always.
No.
I wouldn't say very often. Maybe like every time I'm in the car, kind of thing.
Yes, sometimes on long drives and stuff.
In the car sometimes, we do.
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, not often.
No, not at all.
Yes, before I got here.
Yeah? The radio programs,
Yeah.
you don't listen to them.
I just hear radio on the car.
Do you think young people do it or is it just old people?
Just old people.
White hair, very old or what?
Not very old. I would say just maybe like in their 30s and above, I would say.
Do young people where you live listen to a lot of radio or not?
Not much recently. Yeah.
Just you.
They don't listen. Yeah, just me.
What does radio sound like in Korea? What's the vibe?
The vibe?
The vibe. How do they sound like?
Ooh,
Welcome back to 98.7.
What would you say? Welcome to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You listen to podcasts?
Yeah.
Actually,
I think it's more transition to podcast.
Apple Procast. The
listen to podcasts?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
What has to happen for you guys to listen to radio more?
I think maybe more niche radio stations.
What would your niche radio station be?
Maybe reggae.
What's your reggae? Okay. Wow, that's a.
Teenagers use Spotify.
Why?
Because you can choose the music you want to.
Like Spotify, I can choose what I want to hear it.
When you have the luxury of listening to what you want to listen to, with the younger audience, it's hard to beat that kind of.
Is reggae common in Singapore?
No, it's not.
not at all.
I don't.
Because
Most
I'm
people
very
probably haven't heard about it.
Do you think radio is about to die? Is it a dying medium or?
You can't say 100% never, but 99% it will disappear.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, someday.
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 When?
When? In a 2nd century?
2 centuries.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll ever really die. I think it's just gonna have to make a transition at some point. I think it's probably gonna
be adapted in terms of like the podcast format, like looking at like bringing in good speakers and stuff.
They'll probably see it develop more on one of the platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, where they kind of have their own section.
Will you make your kids listen to radio?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Do you think they're gonna like it?
Probably not.
Is that how we're gonna save radio? Like with the spinach to the kids, you gotta eat your
I'm not
vegetables.
trying to save radio. Radio can save itself. I'm sorry.
Will you be sad if it dies?
No. Because nobody cares, I think, about. Maybe for the news, it's useful.
Will you fight for radio survival?
Yeah, I can do it.
How?
Like foundation?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will do it. Yeah.
We're actually taking donations.
Yeah, and all across Europe, we actually can see there's a decline in young radio listeners. But everyone here in these chairs, you have done different things to tackle this problem. I would like to start with you first, Simon Gooch from Sweden. You are head of P3, which is traditionally the young radio channel. But you took it so far to get rid of the age in your target group. Why is that?
Why is that? So, well, you saw the numbers that Kim talked about. They were horrible. Sort of like if you look at sort of the long-term perspective, we've lost a lot of 15 to 24-year-olds, but the short-term perspective is much brighter. And so what we did, when we saw we were losing so much audience, we looked into, well, why might that be? We didn't ask the same people that you asked in that video, though. We tried to actually find some Swedish people, and we also tried to find people who are actually a cross-section of the country to try and understand. One of the things we saw was that our big full-service radio station, P4, they had a larger share of the target group that P3 used to look at, 20 to 34-year-olds. They had a larger share of those listeners than P3 did. And the more we talked to the audience, the more we understood that the reason they listened to the radio wasn't necessarily because they were trying to meet or be around other people of the same age. They were more interested in the topics that were being talked about on the radio, the music that was played, the identity the radio gave them. So P4 is a radio station that plays big, well-known hits, but is also looking very much at what's happening in the local world around you. It also has a lot of sport on it, whereas P3 is a radio station that's looking nowadays very much more focused on music, people who really love music, go to more concerts and those kind of people who are interested in popular culture and current affairs. And it doesn't really matter if you're 15, 25 or 55. You can be brought together around those topics.
Has it worked?
Yeah, it really has worked. And I mean, I didn't really expect us to see that we'd grow an awful lot in the old demographic, but that's where we've grown most. So now that we've stopped like trying to pretend that we know what kids are interested in, and have said to all the people who we used to say, if you're 35, you have to leave the radio station. If you're 35 as a presenter, you've got to leave the radio station. Now that we're just saying, yeah, we're just making a station that feels more confident, more authentic, and I think that resonates with people, again, whether they're kids or whether kids, I don't know, a 34-year-old's a kid, but they're not a kid. But I think it doesn't really matter about the age anymore. That's our biggest thing.
Janarva Reer from Funx in Netherlands. I know that you think that age and target groups are important. Why is that?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm 34 and I still feel like a kid, so
okay.
I'm still a kid.
I'm 48, I'm not really sure.
But yeah, with Funx we do have a target audience and we have an age range that we focus on, and it's 15 till 35, and it gives us more focus. And I think the power of Funx is that our team is really a reflection of our target audience, so we really try to hire also people who are in that age range just to give it focus. And I think everybody in every age range is welcome to listen to Funix, because we do know that also older people still want to feel young, so they're very welcome. But we have a focus age range for the team to be to know like those are the people we are catering to and need to know the subjects they want to talk about on air and stuff like that.
So age is an internal guideline.
Yeah, exactly.
In hiring and everything
exactly.
you do.
Yeah.
Great. I will follow up on that soon. Fanny Bohun, you are head of podcast for France Inter, which is a part of Radio France. You think the key to reach a young audience is to get them while they're really young, like before they are teens. What are you doing?
Yes, I can talk about children and not young people, because in France Inter, which is the generalist radio of Radio France, we make a lot of podcasts for children. So we have age category from 2 to 12, and one category 2 to 4, then 5 to 7, and so on. And we think each age has its own needs of learning, of speaking.
Is it easier to get them while they're really young?
Yes, the idea is that audio is a very powerful way to tell stories, but it's also a practice, a habit. So we think that if kids are very our listeners now, they will be our listeners tomorrow. And if they are regular listeners, they will continue to listen, maybe radio, maybe podcast in the future.
Emma Lawson, you work at the ABC in Australia, where you work with making audio visual. Do you act differently when trying to reach young versus the young audience versus the older audience? And what is your strategy there?
I was also going to mention we have a similar thing in Australia with kids, easier to get. Everybody knows Bluey, obviously. Yeah, there we go. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's not big. Is it big in Europe?
Who?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we have like all the kids love the ABC. And then once you're over 55, you've got something for yourself again. But there's this huge middle ground that we're just not reaching that audience at all, really. And I think like a lot of it is, even it was difficult to find podcasts to visualize for younger audiences, because a lot of those podcasts aren't even interesting for a middle, like, you know, I'm 30, like anybody in their 30s or even in their 20s, let alone teens, finding it really hard to do that. We're going to be testing some more coming up, visualizing podcasts that are video first, very much with the strategy in mind, working with young people as well. So the talent that we have, who I work with, his name's Aslan Pahari. He's a religions and history TikTok expert. He's got 6 million followers on TikTok. So he's got that audience already existing. And we're going to be making a series of video first podcast series about assassins over the years, because we know that's a topic that young audiences really want, particularly on YouTube. So it's about, not necessarily trying to make the shows that you're already making and trying to fit them to fit a younger audience, like going head first into video and audience first strategy.
Thanks. Short question for you, Simon. Considering Chanelva's reason for having age, isn't the Swedish hosts in P3 getting quite old?
Some of them are, but I mean, if you're 40 years old and you're still interested in music, pop culture, and current affairs, you're still relevant for the audience we're trying to meet. So I think the fact that we've taken away the need to have a specific age group also means we've taken away the need to have a specific age for the presenter. The presenter still needs to do a damn good job, but they're not judging it by whether they're 23 or not.
We're going to talk about like radio. Is there a future for radio? Or should we pack our bags, as Remy said before, and do something else? If we looked at the video before, one guy he said maybe it's not 100% risk radio will die, but it's like 9.9% risk radio will die. So what do you think? Are we like a typewriter? Should we move on? Emma, what do you say?
I think somebody in the clip said it needs to evolve. So when it comes to Phonics, we are a 360-degree brand. So we are operating online, we're doing radio, we're doing podcasts, we're even doing videos. So you need to be on every platform the younger audience is, and then they will adapt. And if they get in contact with you online, when they get a car, they will think of you first because they know you from online. So I think you need to adapt, and they will still listen to radio, because what we see at Phonics, we are still growing when it comes to listeners.
So we're not dying?
We're not dying.
We're not dying. What do you say, Emma?
I was going to say, so we've got at the ABC our youth radio stations called Triple J, and they have this huge event every year. It's called the Hottest 100, and it's where all the population, particularly younger people, it's usually like you vote on your top 10 songs for the year, and it's a huge event. We have massive barbecues, massive parties, and it's this real event that unites the nation, and everybody ends up listening to radio again. So I think, yes, there is still very much a place for radio, particularly with those like campaign events, and that works really well to then drive their digital, like they've got TikTok content coming out of that, social media content, they've got interviews with all the artists that have performed really well, and you create this lovely ecosystem. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like one or the other, but like working it all together. That really worked for them, and now they're nearly on 1 million followers on Instagram, which is a lot in Australia, I know. we're much smaller.
So you don't agree with 99%
No,
risk of dying? No.
No, I don't think it's 99.9% dying. Still very has its place if working with the other mediums.
Fanny and Simon, what do you say about this?
No, I think the important thing is that we make audio. We make radio, podcast, and I think the audio won't disappear. We will continue to tell stories, we continue to use it. The thing we have to do is high quality production, I think, to continue in the future to touch young people. So we don't have to make it basic because it's for children, for example. So we try to think that we need to make this high quality production to continue to touch them, for example. And this year we launched an initiative with one of our podcasts, which called, the podcast is The Odyssey. The initiative is The Odyssey, the contest. And it's a contest with all the schools of the country. And kids can participate. They write an episode and they propose an audio, an audio resume, and we'll choose one class, and they will come and we'll produce the podcast. So we do webinars, we do short videos about how we make the podcast. So we will see.
We'll see.
It's
Are you
very
believing
exciting.
it? You still believe in it, Simon? Final word on this?
I was thinking about the typewriter analogy, that the typewriter's evolved. It's now the digital keyboards, and I mean, maybe they'll disappear and we'll be using our voice to say everything, or just thinking what we're going to. But in terms of like live radio, the idea of humans talking to each other in real time, that's going to be with us for a very, very long time, I think. I don't see that dying. I see that evolving. And whether that means it's coming from an FM transmitter or from a digital context with or without pictures, I think that's something we can dive into and do much, much more with.
Interesting. I guess you want to hear them talk a little bit more, but you don't have any more time on this stage right now. But there will be time later on, right?
Yeah, because you will all join us in the Agora upstairs. So remember to follow the wooden spoon when we come to that point. Right now we're going to switch the panels, and we're going to hear from the ones actually working, making the radio for young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, meanwhile, we're switching microphones. Please welcome those who are actually working with bringing content to the young listeners and viewers on stage. When they're coming up here, meanwhile they're coming up here, we're gonna look back into the Youth Summit that was on here on Radio Days on Sunday, and you're gonna hear and see some highlights from that Youth Summit. So, watch this video.
Today is about people from my age and how you can make content that interests them.
It does sound a bit silly, but it's really important, is that we have to scroll a lot on TikTok ourselves, and we have to like consume the same kind of content that the people we try to reach consume.
And Gen Z is actually looking for curators that help them to know what's the trend that I should really care about and what's the one that's less important.
To get a real sense of our podcast being a community, we meet our listeners quite frequently. If the media truly wants to reach a young audience, they have to make not only the content more available, but also them as the content creators.
When you're scrolling on TikTok, when you're scrolling on YouTube Shorts, you don't pick the video, you don't click on the video, it's just thrown at you. The very first 2-3 seconds is like, really the first second is when you decide if you want to watch that video.
We live in a world dominated by social media and fast-paced content. Because of this, I think radio will need to adapt by creating more dynamic formats.
If you look at TV shows nowadays, it's about the spin-off. It's about what is being shared before the show, but also after the show.
Our team goes to different schools, and we interview the people who are in our target audience. We ask them what kind of videos they like, what hobbies do they have, what do they want to watch like more of, what videos do they scroll past. And then we meet up, the whole team, we map it out, we see if there's anything that they have in common, anything that's more popular now than it was when we did interviews like 3 months ago.
And that also is related to thalassophobia, which is something we recognize a lot with Gen Z. Who knows what thalassophobia is about? So it's the fear of being boring, which is the reason why on TikTok I'm following all the hashtag course, because otherwise I might be so last week if I'm not into the last trend. But that creates opportunities again to be the curator of what's going on today.
So that was the Youth Summit. Welcome please on stage the next panel, the ones actually doing what hopefully the young listeners and viewers are likes. And Kane Slobe
Kane Slobbe
from the Netherlands. You work at Q Music as a DJ. You're 21? 22. Q Music is the biggest station. Important, 22. Sorry about that. You are moderating the Youth Summit, and we saw you in this video as well. What's the most important takeaway from the summit, would you say?
There are a lot. I think the things that I still remember is that if you want to reach young people, you got to have young people on your team. Makes it a lot easier as well, because you know, if you want to know what they're interested in and you have someone on your team that's young, then, well, you can ask them. Other things would be the fact that social media is really important to use which seems obvious nowadays, but still is a really great way to reach young people. I think Chanelva from Phonics already said it. If you're like on a multi-platform, then it's easier for them, like when they're in the car, to turn on the radio on your station. So yeah, those are like a couple of takeaways.
Yeah, and we had a great day, right?
I had a great
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, great. You were good as well.
And Claire Moutard, you work for Radio France.
Yeah.
And you work for actually making workshops for young people and teens to get them interested in radio. How do you get them interested?
Oh, okay. I'm journalist and I'm very young. I'm a kid, 52. Okay. How interested them? I think that today radio we've got a problem because we have a little top-down way to consider children. Okay, kids. We don't listen to them. We don't listen to them. We don't listen to their issues, to their topics, to their voices, to their desires. And I think we must have. We must make with them. Okay, it's what I propose in my radio, local radio ici, Hero of Radio France. I propose to my boss a short program making with children. We are in the morning morning radio show program in the morning, yeah, and it's their points of view about the world, and it's very good. Their points of view. I do with them editorial conference, and they propose topics. Okay, so for example, I think we are. They have question to politics. A good question. For example, do you have shorts? Do you have shorts because you have a little big
Baby?
Belly?
Ventre, yeah. Thank you. For example, okay, for example, during the manifestation against the retirement reform in France, the kids say what they think about the retirement. But for them, you are old when you have got 30, okay? And I think we were the first mainstream media in France talking about a trend on TikTok was Kwakubé. It's a French trend on TikTok, Kwakubé, and they proposed me, we want to talk about Kwakubé, and what is Kwakubé? I don't know. It's like Joe Mama. Perhaps it's a trend, an English trend. And I say, okay, yes, why not? And they made a street interview, okay, a playground interview. And it was very funny and what is interesting is that children have their program in the morning, and parents know what the children think and do and what's happened in the playground, in the school. Okay, so it's good for both parents and children. Okay, and I think it's important to listen to their voices. It's not just a question of strategy. It's a question philosophic, ethic, social. We have to listen to the children.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move. Thank you. We're gonna move over to a guy that actually knows what works. Do you all know Mr. Beast? Yeah, he's one of the brains behind the most viewed video right now on YouTube, right? Most liked video. Yeah. Bring the baguette video. Anyone seen it? Yeah, some of you. So Hugo, Holmqvist from Malmö, Sweden. You're 18, not going to school.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, instead you're working with online content. And you've been working with Mr. Beast. If I ask you, like, how would you say traditional media should rethink when doing content that could reach youth?
I think one thing that we do that could translate into radio is viewer retention part. Like we call it like cutting out all the fluff, and it's like really just keeping what serves the video, or like keeping what serves the program. And it's not like, it doesn't need to be intense, it doesn't need to be fast. I think that's more of like a misconception. But I do think that it should just not waste people's time. I don't think you should be stuck in formats either. I think that can be like quite damaging, doing something just because like you're supposed to have it there. Although that might be like a comfort of radio. But I think it's more of just like being generous, like generosity. I find that a lot of like in traditional media, a lot of the times people tend to figure out how much content they can make of something. How long can we stretch this? When it's like, I think it's more of like you should look at it from like a different angle, where it's like, in how short of a time could we tell this thing? And I really think like there's a lot of people on TikTok, and you see like how they kind of like the audio content. It's like combined with video now, so like a lot of people get their audio content from like the podcast, like visual podcasts. And if you look at like a lot of those podcasts on YouTube, or like the clip ups of them on TikTok, they're quite bad in their content, and there's not really people who are good at talking. They're just kind of like rich in opinions and topics, and I think that's something that like radio has. It's just that like people in radio, they know how to talk. Like they have a voice, and they have like a more entertaining way of like speaking. And I think it's kind of like not utilized because of like what I would guess would be like fluff and like
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the biggest challenge for radio as well is that the young generation is really spoiled with personalized content. So when you go on TikTok, when you go on Instagram, or either on Spotify as well, there's an algorithm that like knows what you like to listen or watch to. So you get to see things that you like. For radio and television, it's like linear media. So we cannot only play songs that you will like, or can only tell things that you will like, because we only have one voice that will like tell a story, which is something that I philosophize. Is that a word? Philosophize? Like I think about a lot. How can we like engage with young people to personalize radio? Because it's maybe with the use of AI or something, but it's really hard because, as a matter of fact, radio is also about the emotion that you try to like convey and that you want to share with people. But at the same time, you cannot like personalize the content to one person. That's just a thought I'm putting out there.
Yeah. But it sounds like you really love radio.
I do. That's why I work in the radio.
Yeah. How come?
How come? So you want to like go to the very start?
Why not?
Well, I see.
I mean, you're 22. You're a
DJ.
DJ.
Picture on the next slide coming up, so I guess that's where you want to go to.
Okay, I will give the audience that slide as well. So this is a picture of you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is when I was 11 years old, I got to participate in a children TV program, which was like it was called Nick Battle on Nickelodeon, and they would fulfill your wish. And I listened to a lot of radio back then, but it wasn't like I wasn't already into radio, but it's just when I was in the car, the radio was on, and I wondered, how does radio work? So as a wish, I sent it in that I would like to have a look behind the scenes at a radio station, and I got the opportunity to have a look behind the scenes at a morning show from Giel Belen, which is a big Dutch radio DJ. And he actually showed me, well, all the buttons, all the ways that radio works. And at that day, I fell in love with radio because I really love music, I really love presenting, and I really love pushing buttons. So
perfect. Perfect combination.
Yeah.
So how old is this picture?
This is 2013, I guess. So it's like 12 years old now. I'm really bad at math. Anyway, so Giel told me if you would like to get more into this, then you should like go to a local radio station and ask them if you can make radio over there for like 1 hour a week. So I did, and then when I was 12 years old, I started making radio every Saturday night, and I did that for 6 years. Then I signed up for the Q College, which is like a kind of studies that Q Music, the radio station where I work at right now, does every year. And since then, I got to work at Q Music. And there I learned like how to make radio on a professional level, how to produce and present radio programs on a professional level. And I get to,
Yeah, and now you're here.
Yeah, now I'm here.
An expert on the stage on
well,
Radio Days Europe.
Those are your words, but...
To pick up on what Hugo said, what do you think radio stations today are doing wrong?
Well, I can only speak for the Netherlands, and I don't necessarily think they're doing it wrong, but I think there are like a couple of missed opportunities. I think radio tends to get lazy a little, so I think that 10 years ago, people would send a message, and that would be very special because, well, you could text a message to your radio station, and your message would be like read out loud. And nowadays, it's so normal to have that opportunity that I think we use that too much, and we do not think about how to turn that into great content to make more out of it. So instead of just reading, Sarah is at work and she's driving a bus, for instance, we could make that message into something of, well, could be a game, could be like more interesting content, which we could also reach young people with as well as the fact that I think that in the Netherlands anyway, we have a lot of old co-workers, old radio DJs, and that's where I said like, for instance with Phonics, we have a lot of young radio DJs, hence there's also like a really young audience who listens to it, because you want to get your voice heard. That's also like what you said, if you want to know, if you want to listen to young people, then as a young person, you will listen to another young person because you know what plays amongst that target group.
What's your take on this, Claire?
Yes, I agree with him. It's very better in English than me. No, I think we have really have to listen more children and kids because they have a lot of things to say to us. And I've got another example for with my short program, which name is À hauteur d'enfant. It's the children's level, okay, children's level. And one day they say, I want to say to my mom that I'm fed up with this cell phone. So please, mom, put down your cell phone and play with me. So we do it, the short program about this. And it's interesting because during 2 days, we have, okay, the young people are in TikTok, they have phone, they are on social media, but not only. Children have a distance with this, and it's good to listen this also, okay?
Thanks. So what should the radio stations do? That will be a part of the discussion after this. Now we're wrapping up here. I hope you all will follow us upstairs to the Agora area. You will join us there for a discussion.
Yeah, and here's a picture. Looks nice, right? So it's kind of cozy.
Yeah. So we'll meet up there and start in 10 minutes, and it will last for approximately 30 minutes. And if you're tired of standing in a queue to get food, it's good to join the discussion first and then get your food. That's my tip. So I'll get my wooden spoon, I'll hold it over my head, and you can follow us up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.